Thank you so much for jumping on to this mental health webinar in association, a partnership between Major League Rugby, OnRise and LooseHeadz. My name's Will Hooley. I'm just playing a very small part in this webinar today as the host. A former pro athlete myself, a proud LooseHead ambassador, and also working for Major League Rugby. It's been great to work with OnRise in particular over the last couple of years, helping bring their resources to help the athletes, to help the coaches, to help the referees. We'll hear a little bit in a minute from Derek. I know who's very much part of that whole OnRise movement. But just a thank you for everyone joining. This is a really important webinar. Mental Health Awareness Month is May. We're coming towards the end. And I think it's a great moment just to reflect and have a little think as to not just thinking about our physical health, but also our mental health. And this topic, which I will allow Mr. Marc Stcherbina, our moderator, to talk a little bit more about, is really poignant, particularly for all the people on this call, whether you're a current or whether you're a former professional athlete, but anyone going through career transition. So we wanted to open up this webinar to talk a little bit about that, some of the mental challenges, identity, and ultimately, as we like to have called it in the title, the next game. Before I hand over to Marc, though, I mentioned OnRise and LooseHeadz. So I did want to take this opportunity just to allow Heather from LooseHeadz to say a few words. We've proudly been with LooseHeadz, I think, since 2022, Heather, here at Major League Rugby. So just for anyone who doesn't know you guys, what are you and what's the great work that you've done?
Thanks for having us, Will. We exist to tackle the stigma around mental health, and we work with the rugby community to really make sure it impacts the rugby community properly. And we're evidence-based, and our dream is to have a well-being champion, a mental health champion at every rugby club in the world. And Brock is one of those people who's able. That's us in a nutshell, LooseHeadz.
Yeah, brilliant. Love it. Fantastic work that you guys are doing right around the world. The mental health charity involved in the rugby community. And then OnRise, I'm going to hand over to Derek, my man. Good to see you. A quick sort of hit from you in terms of what OnRise is and what you guys bring to the table.
Love that, Will. Thank y'all for the time. We're always excited for the work that MLR is doing. And OnRise is a athlete-specific mental health company. We knew that the traditional model for mental health was outdated and athletes were not going to use it. So we wanted to create a new model that was for the athlete, by the athlete, that can meet them where they are in this evolving world of athletics. And we've been able to create it. And now we get a chance to have the former athlete helping the current athlete layered with psychiatry and therapy, and that can meet them wherever they are. So we're excited for what we've been able to do, and excited for the webinar, and excited to continue to help be a resource for those people that are tackling the stigma, us to be the source. You actually have a resource to execute once you done got past tackling of the stigma, to help you with the problem at hand. So we're excited, and thank you for having us.
Appreciate it, Derek. Yeah, look, I think one thing I will just add, just to say before literally give the reins to Marc, is like MLR is very proud, and this is not something that is seen really across the rugby space, to have this kind of level of resources for the athletes, for the referees and coaches. And the fact that we got the partnership with OnRise, and then also, you know, helping tackle the stigma in our rugby community, is something that I think is great, that shows MLR being at the forefront of taking mental health to the next stage. And talking of that next stage, it is this next game, which is the webinar. So over to you, Marc Stcherbina, who's kindly going to moderate this whole thing, and a wonderful panel. Over to you, buddy.
Thank you, Will. Very kind. I want to echo your words as well in thanking our partners today, OnRise, LooseHeadz, for your continued support. And of course, Major League Rugby for organizing this all-important discussion, and for inviting me to run it back after such a fantastic conversation this time last year. And I can't wait to dive into this. It'll be similar, but as Will said, we're going to be focusing more specifically on career transition and the mental health implications that surround those challenges. And you don't have to be an athlete, even though we have three wonderful athletes who have experienced the upper echelon of sports and then having to figure out transition after that. You can be a non-athlete and relate to this discussion. Transition happens for most people at some stage of their career, whether it's a CEO or a founder of a company and they sell or exit because of an acquisition, or an employee leader that holds a certain role, then changes roles, changes companies, How often does that happen? Or even change industries. You don't even have to be in your career to experience transition. It happens in life in so many ways. I know some people who, some friends of mine who have just become empty nesters because their kids are all gone to college. And that's a huge transition. So can't wait to unpack all of that today with our very special guests, whom I'm about to introduce right now. I mentioned three top level athletes. One of them played college ball for Florida Gators. So not just rugby players, we have an American football player with us today. After that, he became a first round pick in the 2014 NFL draft to the New England Patriots. Shortly after that, he became a Super Bowl champion in 2015 and then moved to the Rams in LA and played all 16 games that season in 2016. But then he was ruled out 2017 season with a knee injury, ACL, his third. Can't wait to talk about that. And then retired in 2018 after being riddled with injuries. And well, I want to talk about that as well. He also created a foundation which supports athletes throughout every phase of life, including personal and mental health development. And he's also a peer support specialist for one of our webinar partners today, OnRise. Please welcome Dominique Easley, everyone. Dominique, thanks for your time and welcome. Now we've got also Alycia Washington, recently retired from professional and international rugby after a decade in the US Women's Eagles national team. During this time, she co-founded XV Foundation, 15 Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to securing sustainable, diverse financial support for the USA Women's National Rugby team. She's now the new director of women's rugby at National Collegiate Rugby Organization. And she's also turned her hand and voice to commentating, including the MLR season this year, where she's worked alongside some broadcasting greats, such as Marc Stcherbina. I'm delighted to welcome Alycia Washington. Hi, Alycia.
Hi, happy to be here.
Good. Great to have you. And our third guest actually isn't retired yet. In fact, he seems to be at the peak of his rugby career at the moment. Canadian international 7s and 15s player, Major League Rugby champion last year with the New England Free Jacks, where he was MVP of that championship final game. And now he plays with the Chicago Hounds, who are currently undefeated this season. Coincidence? I don't think so. Off the field, he's many things, including a barista, and he's working towards becoming a firefighter. He's also a LooseHeadz ambassador, one of our partners today. Please welcome Brock Webster. Brock, great to have you with us.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. And yeah, grateful to be here today.
Well, you're right, Will. What a fantastic panel we have. Let's dive into a couple of questions. I want to ask Dom, was I right in saying that injury perhaps forced you to retire? It was a big part of it, and you didn't necessarily retire on your own terms?
It definitely put me in a situation where I had to choose whether or not I wanted to enjoy my elder life.
Tell us a little bit more about that, because I know a lot of athletes who will not think about that and just keep going and going and going, no matter what it does to their bodies.
Yeah, at the time I had two kids, I had two boys, and they was just getting into sports. And my first year in the NFL actually was in the worst physical place and mental place I can be. I could barely walk or stand for 30 minutes, 20 minutes. I couldn't go to the mall, I couldn't run around with my kids. And I just got drafted, dealing with a lot of knee injuries. Thankfully, I was able to go to Germany and find a doctor to help me with that. And when I had my third ACL, I really just went back to that time, my rookie year, and was just like, I'm older. I don't want to be in that position again. And I never want to not tell my kids I can't run outside and play with them. So I think it's time for me to enjoy my life afterwards.
Wow. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go along. Speaking of retirement. Alycia recently retired. Now, I remember hearing you describe to our very own Will Hooley on a podcast episode recently on Inside MLR. Highly recommend listening and watching, folks. But you described your retirement as leaving the bar at 2 a.m. when you know you should have left at midnight.
Yes.
Do you want to expand on that a little bit for us, please?
Yeah, I mean, everything like Dom was just saying, my God, a year ago, I was like counting down the number of blocks in training, the number of trainings that were left, and my mental health, I would say, was like in the trash can. My physical health was like right there along with it, and they're so well linked, and we're not like as athletes, we're prepared to have like our bodies functioning and our minds functioning and to have such good days. Um, and when like those things aren't coming together to create a good product for yourself, then there's no way you can create a good product on the field or for your teammates. So yeah, I was in a similar situation and like I literally feel your pain. Just went to my orthopedic surgeon last week, hoping that they would be like, "Oh, you have a torn meniscus," and they were like, "No, we are going to recommend a knee replacement for you." And I'm 35 and I don't want to get a knee replacement, so we're putting it off for a bit. But I think that's the struggle we have as athletes is that we will run through brick walls for our coaches and our teammates, and then you still have to live with that body for hopefully decades and decades to come when you hang up your boots. So it's just a really hard place to be in. I wouldn't trade anything. I wouldn't like maybe do anything differently because I really enjoyed my career for especially like the beginning 15 years were great. The last 2 or 3 were a bit tough, but um, yeah, it's you definitely get to a point where you feel like you overstayed at a party. And yeah, when your mental and physical can't perform the way that you did when you were 25, it becomes a different game.
Thank you for sharing, both of you. I had this actually chat with Will as we were talking about this topic and how important or what kind of implications does it have going out on your own terms versus not, or being forced to retire? We all have a picture of how we want our career to go.
Yes.
No doubt we have a picture of, and I'll get to Brock in a moment because I'd like to hear what his picture is, what is it? How important is it? What does it mean uh, to be able to finish on top or the way you want to finish? How does it affect our mental health differently? And how important is it even that things go the way we want it to go when it comes to making a smooth transition? Alycia, do you want to expand on that? And then Dom, I'll ask you.
Yeah, I think when I really started to dive into my mental health is when I wasn't selected for the 2022 Rugby World Cup, and like, that was a massive devastation for me, and like probably my first experience with like depression, and just truly like as a result of not seeing my career the way I wanted. Like my plan was, okay, at least we're going to get to 2 World Cups. I was lucky enough to play in 2017. Not selected for 2022. And then we're gonna have one more year of club, and then we're gonna, you know, retire, and then like that we'll be happy with that. And I wish I would have considered a plan B. Even though as an athlete you never want to think of a plan B, I do wish I would have made a plan like, okay, if we don't make it, we're gonna go on a yoga retreat. We're gonna go vacation. Like we're like, here is your plan. Because as athletes, we are good at following a plan. I wish I would have had a plan for if this does not go the way we had hoped. So yeah, it's like, as athletes, we want to control as much as we can. And we think like hard work, determination, like God-given talent will equal this result. And when it doesn't, you're lost. Like you feel like, who am I? I'm absolutely lost in the identity that I had. So yeah, I don't have like a great like, yes, if you don't, if it doesn't go your way, then do this, because it's a really hard thing. Like as athletes, we can't imagine not meeting our goals when we've done the work to meet those goals. So, yeah, but I do think we need to, like, as athletes, figure out a way to come up with a plan B so that we still have a plan to follow when plan A doesn't go the way we had hoped.
Wonderful. And again, thank you for sharing, Alycia. I think that's also part of the way to navigate the mental health struggles is sharing. And Dominic, I know you've been quite vocal about mental health struggles. In fact, we share a mutual friend, Eric Cusin from Same Here Global,
Hmm.
where you have shared a lot of that stuff, which is so important for athletes. So, same kind of question to you around, I guess we can talk about identity here and comparison. So as you look around, you've got teammates that seem to be achieving their goals, winning Super Bowls. You did that. Was that something that was like, okay, now that I've done that, I mean, you said you're in immense pain while doing it. So was that helpful to be able to say, all right, I'm good with retiring because I've achieved this? Would it have been different had you not? Would you have just kept playing to chase a Super Bowl win, perhaps with the Rams? How does that play into identity?
For me, it was a little bit different. See, I didn't start playing football till high school. So football, the NFL, college was never a dream. I
Mm.
never had a plan to go to the NFL, never thought about winning the Super Bowl. So when all those things happen, it didn't mean as much as as it would to someone who grew up wanting to play football, grew up watching the Super Bowl. My thing in life was I just always wanted to win at everything I did, to be honest. It didn't matter whether it was school, it didn't matter whether it was football, a training workout, or a Connect Four game. Whatever it was, I wanted to win. And when it came into my identity, to be honest, I never had one when I was playing. So that a lot of that transition crisis that a lot of us athletes go through, I didn't go through that particular way. I more so went through it in a way of I didn't understand how to be a family. I didn't understand how to be the head of my household. I didn't understand how to be a husband at the time. I didn't grow up with those things. Like I grew up with playing football. I grew up with being an athlete. So that came natural. And when I retired, it wasn't Dominique, oh, who are you now? For me, it was, oh, Dominique, let's go. Let's have a ball finding out who you are. I jumped into flying planes. Like I had 13 hours in the air. I jumped into starting a tech program. I mean a tech app, a fintech edutech app. I opened up a dollar store. So I was honestly in a better place than I was in football. Like I felt like my life wasn't, I felt like I had to find who I was because I was playing football, and I hated that for me. So I found a joy in figuring out who I was, and that's where mental health came for me because I realized when I was playing, I didn't give that time for myself to figure that out. So to for your question, it was more so for me, it wasn't an identity crisis of who I am as a football player or who I am as Dominique. It was more of a identity crisis on who do I want to be to my kids? Who do I want to be to my wife? Who do I want to be to my mother, to my father? And that's where I am at now in life in trying to be a better person overall. Because when I was playing, I was running with demons, to be honest. And those demons were stronger than anything ever. And I'm happy that I'm in this place now because I know where a lot of people are when they get in that transition mode because I had a friend who did pass away dealing with stage 4 CTE from everything he was going through and that he went through with football and family. So it's a big thing for me, and I try that's what I try to give. I try to give everybody that story of understanding, you are not a football player. You are a person who you decide to learn to be as life continues. And in each stage, in each season, you'll be somebody different. Just enjoy who you are.
Thank you, Dominique. And so sorry to hear about your friend. It's all too prevalent these days, and why I imagine you are so passionate about this work and helping other people avoid that at all costs. So wonderful share. And what I'm hearing from both you and Alycia is not being attached to identity. That helps, right? And figuring out who you are outside of that athlete identity. And now look at you. You've still got that winning attitude. So you want to win at fatherhood. That's what I'm hearing too. Good for you. Well, we've got the benefit of Brock Webster, who's probably listening to these two people thinking, yeah, I need to take notes because I'm in it. And no doubt, Brock, you want to transition smoothly when that comes. It's not a matter of if, it's when, and all athletes know that, but not all athletes choose to think about it until it's too late, or they don't have a plan B, as Alycia was talking about. So, Brock, what are you doing at the moment? Are you even thinking about retirement? And if you are, what are you doing to build your identity outside just Brock, the rugby player?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I just want to say firstly, like, yeah, I see how tricky it is as an athlete. We're all trained and very good at working hard and pushing through things and
Mm.
committing to things. Um, but what's that look like for the other areas of our life, right? And so that's what I'm seeing and learning through. And for me, I think I had an injury a couple of years ago that had back-to-back surgeries and put me out close to 2 years as well. And for me, that was a big time of, yeah, kind of looking back at things. I think when, as we're hearing through all of our stories here, when injuries hit us, they humble us in a way that we gain a new perspective that force us to slow down and not just push through. We're forced to sit with ourselves and have this time of reflection. And I think that for me was pretty big. And last off season, I started working away on my fire certifications, and I'm going to be doing that again this year. And so I think with that, yeah, just kind of a realization. You grow up as an athlete having these dreams of what you want to fulfill, but also you have dreams in other places in life that start to develop. And so when those start coming in, how can those two things show up in the same space, or those multitude of things? And so that's been big for me, and choosing to invest in those other areas of my life, and starting to work on those fire certifications. And yeah, like you said, it's not that I believe that retirement will come at this time or another, but being prepared for it, I've realized over the last 2 years has been really important for me. And yeah.
Good stuff, Brock. I can't wait for that firefighter calendar to come out, buddy.
Send you a copy.
Great stuff. Well, so what I'm hearing as well, I'm gonna ask Alycia, Dom, when it comes to identity and figuring out who we are, and obviously the next game, which is our theme for this talk today, what's beyond this thing that we know so well, that we put so much into, because life is much longer than just our sporting career. When I think about this, is a topic close to my heart, because similar to you all, I had a rugby career that lasted 12 years, and it ended because of a neck injury. And then I went through those same challenges of what's next. I think similar to Alycia, wasn't putting the time into figuring out who I was aside from that. And I spent a good few years post career figuring that out. And I'm happy to say that I've got there. And a big part of that, which I'm seeing a theme in all of this today, is service. Alycia started a foundation while you were playing. So that's a big part of it. Talk about purpose and identity and happiness that comes with that. Dominique, your foundation, I want to hear about both of those. And Brock, you're about to go in and serve in the most noble, honorable way when you finish, and you're already working toward that. Derek here, Heather, this is all about service and the fulfillment that it gives us. So that's a statement, but it's also a question. In Alycia, let's talk about XV Foundation, and also what you're doing for college athletes today and why it's important for your mental health.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you summed it up in a word, service. Is that like when I like, when I, like I said, missed out on selection, was like staring down a tunnel of depression. Like for me, grief felt like a physical thing that you had to put somewhere. It wasn't just like a feeling that you had. For me, it was something like like a weight that was on me. And you could either, like for me, sit with the weight and let it drag you down, or you could walk with it and let it lighten a bit, like on your journey. And so by founding XP Foundation with my co-founder Christine Summer, one of my best friends, we were able to give back to the team because, like, some of that those mental health struggles, especially in women's sport, come from not being fully professionalized, like the financial struggle of just having to, like, fund all of our trips, like being selected for your country, then we were staring down having to be a pay-for-play model to be on like the U.S. women's national team, which was insane to us. And that was sort of the beginning of the foundation. But also, like, I thought of ways like, how do I give back? And like, I was like feeling the worst about myself when I like all of my best friends were at a World Cup in New Zealand and I was home. But then I started getting, when people realized I wasn't there, I started getting a few calls like, "Hey, can you run a clinic for us? Our girls would love to meet you." And you would show up and they would have no idea I wasn't selected. They just knew that I had played for the national team and that, like, I was in their presence, and like those smiling faces up at you, just like, if they just help like lighten that load. And
Mm.
they would ask you questions and ask you for pictures. Like, it's one of those things where you're just like, this doesn't matter because I get to serve my community and I get to hopefully inject some love and light into their game that I'm missing from my game. And like, from those experiences, from like coaching, reffing, fundraising, now creating opportunities for the next generation in collegiate rugby, like, all of that just lightens the load and just helps all those like negative feelings just like fade away. Like, I don't know if it's easy to say, like, especially from big disappointments, you're 100% healed, but I would say like I'm 98, 99, and I feel really good to be able to like talk in front of a group about it now without like tearing up and be able to smile about it and learn from it. But yeah, that all comes from service, just being like dedicated to who can I help next? Who can I help navigate away from the situations that made my career hard. So those are the things I look forward to doing now.
Ah, I love that. And you're right. Like the identity piece that we talk about, that word that keeps coming up, we become so attached to our identity because we make it all about us, don't we? We make it about ourselves, we become self-important, and therefore things weigh on us even more heavily if things aren't going our way, like we talked about. But when you focus on others, it melts away and it releases some of that and brings so much joy. So thank you for that. Before I ask Dom about his foundation, reminder to all the folks that have turned up today, welcome, by the way. Get your questions in. If you have a burning question, you can write them in the comments, and we're going to do our best to get to a Q&A toward the end. We'd love to hear from you as well. So Dominique, the Easley Foundation, tell us more about that.
Yeah, it's based on vulnerability, to be honest. When I retired, I came to realization that a lot of my I say setbacks or holdbacks came from me not being vulnerable, and that came in all aspects, whether that was family, whether that was professional, and whether that was business. I just wasn't vulnerable enough to ask the questions that needed to be asked for me to understand what I needed to understand. And growing up where I grew up, which is Staten Island, New York, we didn't have conversations outside of uh, music, outside of, and really everything besides financial literacy, emotional intelligence, the tools that you really need to succeed in life, to be happy, right? To be internally happy. And that's something that I wanted to give back. And that's why I started the Easley Foundation. I go to schools. Right now, we're in the middle of trying to create a program for kids to be able to honestly have a safe space to get their household together. That's one thing that I don't see in our community, meaning the Black and brown community. Our households are separated, our households are torn apart. And that's why we have not yet to come together to succeed in life and to have that generational wealth. And I'm not just talking about financially, I'm talking about emotional intelligence. And that's what I wanted to bring. And that's what we're doing with the Easley Foundation, is we're creating that safe space for athletes to be able to really be vulnerable with the people that means something to them, that they're around every day, whether it be coaches, whether it be some type of volunteers that's in the area, and we create that, I want to say, brotherly, sisterly feel for them to be able to do so, and also bringing awareness to the, not to the kids, but more so to the parents of what their kids is going through, and for the kids to understand what their parents are going through. So we all are able to give each other grace and understand and not assume a lot in life. And that's where I feel like a lot of people have the disagreements. They tend to assume instead of understanding. And that's where the Easley Foundation really is making the impact of creating that really no boundary for communication in a healthy way.
Dominique, thank you so much for that work, for sharing that. It's so important. And more importantly, I won't get into it too much, but you are providing what a lot of organizations are not while athletes are in it. That's part of the problem, even at the highest pro level. They're checking a box, offering certain resources, but not the ones that we really need as athletes, like emotional intelligence. I'm so glad you said that word. That's my wheelhouse. That's my world. Because when I went through my transition, it was emotional intelligence that got me through it, learning about it, understanding who I was, because I was spiraling. So it's all about self-awareness. Yes, the practical skills like financial literacy, so important, and that can help us move into the next phase of life, the next game, if you will, successfully. But it's not just about that. Emotional intelligence helps us make the right choices with our money, allows us to put it away as opposed to just spending it now because I want to look cool to everyone else. So I love the work you're doing. Keep it going. And no doubt we'll all support however we can. I love that. Now, you mentioned vulnerability, Dom. I want to ask Brock now, especially in contact sports. Now, Brock, you're playing a men's contact sport right now. You are an ambassador for LooseHeadz, whose slogan is tackle the stigma, or one of them. What can you say about the stigma that exists, if it still exists, how you negotiate and navigate some of the reluctance of players in your environment to open up and share, to ask for support if you need it? Is it changing? Is it getting better? I know that myself and Dom and Will, for that matter, Derek, we can talk about how the stigma was very much part of our environment, and breaking through was difficult. What can you say about the stigma these days, especially in men's rugby?
Yeah, well, I think firstly with the support of OnRise and LooseHeadz, there's at the least a knowing within the environment, within the league, that there are these supports that are coming and have come and are offered for us. So I think that is like, it's a great start to where everyone knows that's there. I think when it comes to being in an environment, yeah, like you said, and we all know, especially in a very physical sport, in a men's sporting environment, like I was actually talking this past week with a group of guys, and I'm like, man, we are so good at joking around and making things light, and we are so bad at being vulnerable and just like sitting down in a circle, and it just feels so awkward just to sit down with a group of guys in that way. So no, I definitely see it improving, and that's where I feel, and I hope others, like not just myself as an ambassador, but others within my team and others in other teams, all athletes, I hope we, in talking around this stuff, just feel encouraged to press into moments of vulnerability. Like Dom said, I really like that. Like that's what it comes down to. I think we all feel uncomfortable with vulnerability and feel uncomfortable entering it. But I would say 99% of the time when we enter it and we share with others, and we're actually able to hear others' hearts and they're able to hear ours, I think it's so healing and so vital to us.
Yeah, well said, Brock. I agree with you. Look, it's one thing to have the resources. So once again, thank you, OnRise, LooseHeadz, both these foundations we've talked about with Alycia and with Dom. But it's another thing to actually use them. and feel comfortable saying, yeah, I'll take some of that help. I'll take some of that support. And you touched on it, vulnerability. It still exists where it's awkward. And I think being a Looseheads ambassador, I want to tip my cap to you, Brock, because that's essentially you saying you're voting for, we need to talk about this. I'm here to talk about this, and we need to normalize discussions around mental health as opposed to just pushing them to the side and talking about surface level stuff like Dom alluded to before, right? Back in Staten Island. So we need to go deep. We need to create those conversations, and well done for being an ambassador to bring those conversations and just keep it going, Brock. That's great stuff. Alycia, talking about vulnerability in the men's game, how is that different, if at all, in the women's game?
Oh, good question. I was actually thinking about that while Brock, while you were talking. I can't say it is much different. Like I know stereotypically, like women are maybe more open about discussing their feelings, but also like when you're in like a high performance camp and environment, sometimes you're doing everything you can to hold it together and like control what you can and like give your best and control what you're eating, control how much you're sleeping, like control your environment. That sometimes like depending on the person in the situation, like if you unravel, like if you pull one spool of thread, it can all come undone, and that's sort of what we're all afraid of. But I think like especially in the USA environment, like if we saw one of our teammates having an off day, it doesn't need to be like a big thing with the coaches or like even like the sports psych that's around. Just be like, hey, like buddy, what's up? And like to give a good environment, some good timing. Not when you're in the rush to do something, but just like yeah, just check in with each other. Be like, hey, like I noticed this, or I noticed like you're a bit more on edge, or I noticed you're a bit quieter today. Like, what's going on? Is everything okay back home? Do we want to walk through any plays together? And sometimes like the smallest question can open up the best conversation. So I think as teammates, we just need to get comfortable with that. But that's how you build a culture and relationship. So yeah, I would say like especially within the USA environment, we were pretty decent at that, but it would have been absolutely incredible to have a support like something like OnRise while we were on the team then, because we had maybe a sports psych, but as players, sometimes we weren't 100% sure if what we were saying to the sports psych was getting back to the coaches or not in like a
Mm.
confidentiality sort of, can we talk to this person sort of way. So having someone fully third party would have been amazing
Mm.
if you weren't in a place to just talk to your teammates.
I'm glad you touched on that, right? Because that's part of, I guess, the stigma or the reluctance to take advantage of these support structures and resources. Because what if the coach gets wind of it and starts to deem me mentally unfit? I don't want to show any signs of not being able to perform at my best. So
Yes.
now we have a conversation around this is for leaders now. All of those that are on this, you're a coach, you're a leader. It's good for players now moving into coaching to understand psychological safety, which is a buzzword in the corporate space as well. That's where
Mhm.
there's crossover, right? Providing the psychological safety is arguably harder in sports for coaches to be able to say, I won't punish you if you open up about some of the mental and emotional struggles, right? Provided that you open up and we deal with it and we get you back to your best, or we avoid you plummeting into burnout.
Yeah.
There's not enough of that going on personally. So I've always said this. I'd love to see coaches take the programs of Dom's Foundation, of OnRise, of Looseheads, and make it compulsory for athletes. It's like you've got gym in the morning, then we got speed work, backs and forwards split, we got defense, and then we've got emotional intelligence for an hour in the afternoon. I would love to see that, but anyway,
Yeah. But
that's my
I add
ideal.
there, I would love as like former athlete, for the coaches to also have like mental health informed coaching. And it's like talking to an athlete about like, because some coaches could see that weakness and use that as an excuse to not play you without having a conversation. And that only
Mm.
spirals your mental health worse and worse. But there are some coaches who are like, hey, we know you have a lot going on, but we know you're going to use it on the field to your advantage. So like here's, here's a conversation about it, but we're not going to hold it against you. But I don't think, honestly, enough coaches are trained with mental health advancement in mind. Like it's very X's and O's, and you leave a lot of your career with a lot of trauma from your coach, and that was like definitely what I experienced. And it like then what do you do with it? Like there's nowhere besides service to put that trauma or in therapy. But yeah, it should definitely be like required reading for coaches to speak to their athletes, like the way any of us would want to be treated. Not sure if
Yes.
you guys experience the same, but definitely on the women's side, there's more work to be done there.
Oh, absolutely. Again, you're so right about that trauma. I had flashbacks. I think about and I can't speak for everyone, obviously, but not always. I love my dad. We have a great relationship, but I can't remember a lot of phrases that I learned from him or life skills that I learned, but I do from my coaches.
Yeah.
And so on both sides, right? It's like I remember some of the things that my under 6 rugby coach taught me. I still hear it today, right? If you think you can, you know you can. It's in my brain. Conversely, if it's negative and it affects our well-being and it affects our self-esteem. So I'm glad we double clicked on the importance of coaches in this space to train themselves up, not just in the practical tactics of the sport, but emotional intelligence and coaching that has that. So we talked about retirement, navigating our careers into the next phase. We talked about the mental implications of that, what we need to do in terms of identity. It's also important when we go into the next phase to find our next team, our next tribe, if you will. And as football players, rugby players, would you agree that during our career, it's not hard to find friends and a team? In fact, I moved 7 times to play for different teams. Dom experienced that as well, moving to LA from New England. You move into already a new group of teammates, friends, brothers, sisters, if you will. When you retire, we don't necessarily have that anymore. So how do the 3 of you, I'll start with Dom, then we'll go to Alycia, and then Brock, I want to hear your thoughts on the importance of finding your team during the next game. How do you do that, Dom, and how important is it to have a support group around you of friends, family, and how do you do it?
I feel like that is no, I know that is one of the most important things for the transition. Because, and it's interesting because everyone's going through that transition. Everyone that was a part of your life, that was close in your life, is now going through the same transition, probably even more than you are, because the expectation that they had, the light that they seen you in, will change. It will change because it's just different. So understanding and how to find it, direct answer, trial by error, to be honest. It's trial by error. The things that you do in life, the choices that you make, the places that you go, the people will show you who should be in your life. And the same thing goes for you. You will be shown who you should be, whose life you should be in as well. So it's really trial by error. I was fortunate enough to have the same people that's been in my life since I was in high school. Like I kind of never strayed from outside of that. And obviously there has been family members where things went bad, people have been done wrong. And you just gotta really accept people for who they are. My favorite person in this world, my favorite rapper, I apologize, not person, my favorite rapper in this world, DMX, he said it the best. If a snake is going to show you who a snake is, accept them for who they are. Don't be mad. Don't be upset. Don't judge them. Just understand who they are and understand what type of relationship you need to have. And that's what really helped me throughout my transition during that time. I started to understand and see what I wanted out of life and I started to see and understand who can help me grow to become that within my life. And that's who I've kept close to me. That's who I've tried to give that same really love back so they can understand how much they mean to me as well. Because I had to grow to become, like I said, I had to grow to become a better friend, a better husband, and a better brother, a better, person overall, so that they can see that I'm also working on myself and we also can grow together, and that there will be times where we both have to give each other grace.
Dom, emotional intelligence. There it are. What a masterclass. Thank you. There it is again. No, as you said, I heard acceptance rather than judgment. And then boundaries. It's like, all right, you're a snake. I don't judge you for it, but I know that probably not a good idea to have a snake in my world. So respectfully, I'll look elsewhere for a non-snake. But it's where people, because I think that's important. It's not just about finding a tribe, and I got to surround myself with people now that I'm not in sport anymore, like the way I was, because you can easily surround yourself with the wrong people that don't forward you in your life. Alycia, same question. What are you doing to find your next team right now? Or are you still in contact, I'm sure, with your former team/teams, or both?
Oh, for sure. Like they're definitely in contact with some of my best friends from the team. Not everyone, of course, right? But just expanding on everything Dominique just said, just like your vibe attracts your tribe. And I knew like given the place I was in a couple years ago, I had to do a lot of work on my vibe. And so like for me to get myself right, to be the best person, friend, like just anything to anyone, I had to do a lot of journaling, a lot of therapy, and like read a lot of self-help books, and just truly like find myself and find the company I wanted to be around. And sometimes, like we said, it is like with some people in your life, it is addition by subtraction. But then through that, you find who the best people are, and you through that also have a good reflection of yourself, so you can see, okay, like I have like for my friends, I love my friends. My friends are incredible. They're all so motivated. They're all accomplished and so intelligent, just absolutely beautiful humans. And I want to better myself to be so we could all be better reflections of each other. But I think it all starts internally. And then once you figured out yourself, have done some growing emotional intelligence, like done some work there, then you can attract better and better people that are a better reflection of you. But it didn't happen overnight for sure. But yeah, I'm proud of my progress, proud of my circle, and like through the foundation, through work, like you find some really great people that you can work to emulate. So, but it's definitely not easy, especially when you're doing a lot of inner work.
And we're proud of you, Alycia.
Thanks.
I'm speaking as someone in your circle, right? I am in your, yep. Okay.
Yes, of course.
Don't answer that.
Of course.
Don't answer that. Brock, something you don't necessarily have to think about as much as the rest of us, because you are surrounded by your tribe and your team, and you're going through it. Are there people outside that you're also nurturing those relationships so that when you move on, no doubt you'll stay in touch with a lot of your current teammates? But are you also looking at, well, I need to also surround myself with people not in the sporting world to complete this identity as a human, not just an athlete?
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there exactly, where I think obviously it's very important at the end of a career, and that's probably where it becomes even more evident. But I think for myself, being in the middle of my career, I see the value in just having relationships outside of rugby, outside of being an athlete is so important to me, and just kind of rounding me as a human being. Relationships where I feel and I'd hope that if those people were asked about me, their first few thoughts wouldn't just be, oh, he's a rugby player and he's really hardworking and, da 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 da, but they'd be all these other wonderful characteristics I believe I have as well. And seeing me as not just an athlete. So I think, yeah, I try and get away from rugby and invest in those relationships. And with that, I get more opportunity for the vulnerability of people just genuinely checking in with how I'm doing. And my hope is that by the end of my career, I have my established team in life, away from being an athlete, just my team in life to rely on and to do that transition with.
Thank you, Brock. I'm just having a little giggle to myself when you say, I hope when people think of me, they think of also who I am as a person, that analogy of thinking about the end in mind. Who do you want to be now? Well, think about your funeral. Think about the eulogy. What are people going to say about you? And I'm just imagining as you said that, oh, Brock Webster, great under a high ball, had over 20,000 running meters. Yeah, good guy.
Also a great person.
Oh, and also a great person. No, that's great. Fantastic answers. Thank you, all of you. Let's pause a little bit while we're coming to the end. We've had some comments come through and some questions. I want to give a shout out to Ron Estrada, Chicago Hounds. He says he's thankful for all of you for sharing and being open, discussing what shouldn't be as difficult a topic to broach. I agree, Ron, as it sometimes is. It helps those of us too who didn't play at the highest level, like the three of you. Will, Hooley, the four of you. Derek, actually, let's just say all of us. He appreciates sharing the wisdom on how we can carry the best parts of sport forward with us while still allowing ourselves space to evolve beyond it. And in doing so, continue building a community. We just mentioned community where these conversations can happen. Thank you, Ron. Thank you so much. I have a question here from Dr. W. Hooley Esquire. Okay, that's weird. What do you miss the most from being an athlete, and is there anything in your current new career that replaces that loss? I'm not going to ask any particular person. Who wants to take that? Anything you miss, and what have you replaced it with?
I'll answer it. Something I missed. I miss the challenge on a daily basis. I miss knowing that when I get to the field, I was going to get better at something. I missed that. I missed the challenge. I missed the reward on a daily basis. And what I've replaced that with is coaching. Just started coaching high school. I'm about to actually do an internship with the Washington Commanders. And to be honest, the feeling is much better being able to give someone what I did and to be able to see them successfully do it better is 10 times much better feeling than honestly me being in that position or in that situation. And I wouldn't take it away. I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
I love that. I see Alycia loves it too. What do you got for us, Alycia? Come on. I know you missed something, then you're either actively replacing it. Come on.
Of course. Well, one, Dominique, I'm very proud of you and your internship. Like, that's incredible. Like, we as athletes, we have an addiction to getting better, to learning and like applying ourselves. So that's like, that's incredible. So congrats.
Thank you.
I definitely miss like game day locker room. Like, there is no adrenaline pumping, like you and your teammates are hyped. There's nothing quite to replace that. But like I'm coaching now. I'm really enjoying like creating a good environment for my high schoolers. Refereeing is also a very high level of adrenaline. You have to make good decisions quickly. You have to be just as sometimes as athletic and agile as the athletes. A bit tongue in cheek, but I definitely miss the cartilage in my knees. That does not grow back. So if I could get back to
I'm with you with that one.
Yeah. Like knees, what like a ridiculous joint, honestly. Like, we have not evolved to replace it. Like, what, come on. But yeah, there's like nothing quite like a game day. But the challenges that I have in my new role, as women's director of National Collegiate Rugby, you find a lot of like problem solving on the daily. So, but yeah, but retirement's great. Like, I am absolutely loving it. The smile is genuine. I'm really enjoying being past my career, but also still very much involved in the game.
Awesome. Thanks, Alycia. We feel the smile. I know it's true. I know it's real. I've seen it in person. Lights up the room.
Oh,
Brock,
stop.
you're not retired yet, but what might you miss the most once that inevitable day comes around, buddy?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was reminiscing even as these two were talking about what they miss. I think that's a good one. Like the game day routines, everyone has their routines, and we're like a colony of ants all going amongst each other, like going over each other and around each other, meeting our routine needs, and then at the end of it, coming together before we go out and put a performance together. I think that's definitely a piece that even in not just being named now, like you probably take for granted a bit while you're in it. And it's like, yeah, like it is so cool that amidst it all, you're just working with such a big group of people, and you are all working so efficiently well together. It's a pretty cool sight to oversee when you're able to step back and look at it. So I think that, and for me, yeah, I think one of my biggest desires in my heart is I just love to compete. And so I think, once again, as it was mentioned, like that will look different in competing in something else in life, and being a father, or whatever else it might be one day. But yeah, definitely we'll miss competing one day for sure on the field.
If I may, I just want to add to all of that. Agreed. Game day. I miss nothing else apart from my career. The knee injuries, the injuries, waking up sore every day, especially toward the end of the career. The selection meetings. No, thank you. Video sessions, film, all that. Game day. Yes. That lead up. T minus 6 hours. T minus 4. The referee pops his head in with 2 minutes to go. You start to hear the crowd. So it's the performative element. So to answer the question, I'm replacing it with, that's a loose replacement, but this kind of stuff, webinars, there's a start time. We got to nail it. We're practiced. Keynote speaking I'm doing now, and Alycia commentating, right? Yeah. That kind of gives a little bit of that buzz where it's like, all right, it's kickoff soon. We got to get our ducks in order. We've practiced this. We've rehearsed. So I just wanted to add to that as well, because
I want to add one more thing. I apologize. Brock, you just made me think about this. The team, I miss the team aspect, the people around me understanding it's a team. So getting into this new world, I realized people don't understand what is teamwork or how it is to work with a team member. And I understand that because they haven't done that obviously it gets to a certain level, but at any level, people who has never been on a team, they're really interesting people. So I miss that.
I'm so politically correct. They're very interesting people. Yeah. Yes. Agreed. People that athletes can hustle. There's teamwork. There's communication. There's taking in information. It's harder to find in the real world for sure.
Yes.
I hear what you're saying.
So Brock, enjoy it. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Enjoy that time.
The next challenge.
Well, I just saw the time, everyone. Great way to finish. Will, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you, everyone, for your participation, just for showing up. It's such an important conversation, and we all got something out of it today. And please, everybody, support every single person you see on the screen today. Those participating, we'll have links for you. We'll have a video. I'll let you explain and bring us home. But thank you, everyone, for showing up. You're amazing.
Thanks, Marc. Hey, look, you're the man here that we should be thanking as well, moderating all of that under the time constraints. And thank you, Dominique, Alycia, Brock. Awesome to hear that, and no doubt could hear so much more. Yes, this is recorded. It will be involved or on Major League Rugby YouTube in the next however many days. This is great to have people come up live, but also it's about the discussion, and people can find it elsewhere after this. By the way, that comment about the team, Dom, wow. That is the most truthful thing. And I know we are former professional athletes here, and there's going to be people watching this and listening to this or whatever who are not. but I cannot describe to you more how I just so hold on to that comment. The team, people don't fully understand what really communication is in the real business world, and maybe even some of my colleagues are on this call and might hear that and be like, "Wait, what?" It's like, you don't, guys. You don't. Not in the elite sports space. It's a different breed. But yeah, and I just appreciate also everyone's sharing what they miss. But also, I think the last thing I'll say is this is a change of perspective. Whatever out there, whether you're going through a career transition, not just in sport and in something else, I wrote it down here, is that actually in the next game, there are huge benefits. There's huge things to look forward to. There's huge perspective changes that actually can be great for your life. That's certainly something that I found and I felt in the end, is when I actually left the field, you were kind of dreading it, but at the same time, actually, you just take a positive mindset going into that next change, going into that next game, that transition. Trust me, there's some great things on the other side. I'm telling you that, Brock, for when that day does come to retire. Life after sport is still great. Thank you so much. Thank you to OnRise and all they do for our athletes here in Major League Rugby, and for the referees and coaches. And thank you to LooseHeadz for the brilliant work that you do in helping tackle the stigma. Thanks so much for joining this webinar. And any other questions out there, get on social media, follow, of course, Major League Rugby, and we will look to try and answer them in due course. But from myself and everyone involved in this webinar, thank you so much. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your day.